Namo Phat. Good morning. Thanks for joining me for a daily practice check-in. Listen, listen, listen. This beautiful sound calls us back to our true home. The fifth mindfulness training. Aware of the suffering caused by unmindful consumption, I vow to cultivate good health, both physical and mental, for myself, my family, and my society, by practicing mindful eating, drinking, and consuming. I will ingest only items that preserve peace, well-being, and joy in my body, in my consciousness, and in the collective body and consciousness of my family and society. I'm determined not to use alcohol or any other items that contain toxins, such as certain TV programs, magazines, books, films, and conversations. I'm aware that to damage my body or my consciousness with these poisons is to betray my ancestors, my parents, my society, and future generations. I will work to transform violence, fear, anger, and confusion in myself and in society by practicing a diet for myself and for society. I understand that a proper diet is crucial for self-transformation and the transformation of society. We're continuing to read a Dharma talk called Wholehearted Training by Ajahn Chah from his book, Everything It's Teaching Us. I invited one high-ranking monk from Pibun and district to come and stay here too, but he said he couldn't. He came for a while and said, "This is not my place." He told this to the local people. Another Ajahn came to stay here for a while and left, but I remained. In those days, this forest was really remote. It was far from everything, and living here was very hard. There were mango trees the villagers had planted here, and the fruit often ripened and went bad. Yams were growing here too, and they would just rot in the ground. But I wouldn't dare to take any of it. The forest was really dense. When you arrived here with your bowl, there wouldn't be any place to put it down. I had to ask the villagers to clear some spaces in the forest. It was a forest that people didn't dare enter. They were afraid of this place. Nobody really knew what I was doing here. People didn't understand the life of a meditation monk. I stayed here like this for a couple of years, and then the first few monk disciples followed me here. We lived very simply and quietly in those days. We used to get sick with malaria, all of us nearly dying. But we never went to a hospital. We already had our safe refuge, relying on the spiritual power of the Lord Buddha and his teachings. At night it would be completely silent. Nobody ever came in here. The only sound you heard was the sound of the insects. The kutis were far apart in the forest. One night, about 9 o'clock, I heard someone walking out of the forest. One monk was extremely ill with fever and was afraid he would die. He didn't want to die alone in the forest. I said, "That's good. Let's try to find someone who isn't ill to watch the one who is. How can one sick person take care of another?" That was about it. We didn't have medicine. We had a borapet, an extremely bitter medicinal vine. We boiled it to drink. When we talked about preparing a hot drink in the afternoon, we didn't have to think much about it. It only meant borapet. Everyone had fever, and everyone drank borapet. We didn't have anything else, and we didn't request anything of anyone. If any monks got really sick, I told them, "Don't be afraid, don't worry. If you die, I'll cremate you myself. I'll cremate you right here in the monastery. You won't need to go anywhere else." This is how I dealt with it. Speaking like this gave them strength of mind. There was a lot of fear to deal with. Conditions were pretty rough. The lay people didn't know much. They would bring us plat ra, fermented fish, a staple of the local diet. But it was made with raw fish, so we didn't eat it. I would stir it and take a good look at it to see what it was made from, and just leave it sitting there. Things were very hard then, and we don't have those kinds of conditions these days. Nobody knows about them. But there is some legacy remaining in the practice we have now, and the monks from those days who are still here. After the rains retreat, we could go tudong right there, here within the monastery. We went and sat deep in the quiet of the forest. From time to time we would gather, I would give some teaching, and then everyone went back into the forest to continue meditating, walking and sitting. We practiced like this in the dry season. We didn't need to go wandering in search of forests to practice in because we had the right conditions here. We maintained the tudong practices right here. Now after the rains, everyone wants to take off somewhere. Now, after the rains, everyone wants to take off somewhere. The result is usually that their practice gets interrupted. It's important to keep at it steadily and sincerely so that you come to know your defilements. This way of practice is something good and authentic. In the past, it was much harder. It's like the saying that we practice to no longer be a person. The person should die in order to become a monk. We adhered to the Vinaya strictly, and everyone had a real sense of shame about their actions. When doing chores, hauling water, or sweeping the grounds, you didn't hear monks talking. During bowl washing, it was completely silent. Now some days I have to send someone to tell them to stop talking and find out what all the commotion is about. I wonder if they're boxing out there. The noise is so loud I can't imagine what's going on. So again and again I have to forbid them to chant. I don't know what they need to talk about. When they've eaten their fill, they become heedless because of the pleasure they feel. I keep on saying, when you come back from alms round, don't talk. If someone asks why you don't want to talk, tell them, my hearing is bad. Otherwise, it becomes like a pack of barking dogs. Chattering brings about emotions, and you can even end up in a fist fight, especially at that time of day when everyone is hungry. The dogs are hungry, and defilements are active. This is what I've noticed. People don't enter the practice wholeheartedly. I've seen it changing over the years. Those who trained in the past got some results and can take care of themselves, but now hearing about the difficulties would scare people away. It's too hard to conceive of. If you make things easy, then everyone is interested. But what's the point? The reason we were able to realize some benefit in the past is that everyone trained together wholeheartedly. May all beings be well. May all beings be happy. May all beings be peaceful. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Thank you for joining me today.